Hey everybody, it's Randy with Lowbuck LS here again, and just wanted to make another video to follow up with the video I posted yesterday where I was having that, still having that idle tuning issue after I did my cam swap. And if you watch the video I posted yesterday, you'll see when I first start the truck, when it's cold, it runs fine in park, but then as soon as I shift it into gear, basically the desired airflow drops to close to zero and then the engine dies. So I did some more research last night, and I also posted up the video I made yesterday and my log and tune files to a few different places, the HP Tuners Facebook group, and I also sent it over to Kyle with the Goat Rope Garage channel. And like I mentioned yesterday, he's got a service where if you support him on Patreon for $15 a month, he will review your tune and can give you tuning advice and tuning help. So I sent an email over to him with my log files and the issue, and I also sent that over to Jeff with Evans Performance Academy. And I haven't heard back from Jeff yet. I know he's a pretty busy guy, or I imagine he is, but Kyle did get back to me, and his first response was he figured that on my idle airflow table, the colder portion of it, where it's in gear, the airflow values were too high. And that kind of agrees with the research I did last night. I found a couple of posts on the HP Tuners forum where guys have had problems with it seems like if you've got a value of higher than 40 grams per second in your base running airflow table, that it can cause problems. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, is go into that base running airflow table, and any values that are higher than 40, I'm going to take them down to below 40. And Kyle actually sent over some numbers for me to plug in, but I think just to test my theory, for now I'm just going to bring those numbers down to below 40 and see if that solves my issue of the desired airflow basically dropping to zero when I shift it into gear when it's cold. And then the other thing that Kyle had noticed was my IAC counts were pretty high. Like, there was times when it was pinned at the max, which is 310. So there's a procedure for basically adjusting using like the set screw on your throttle blade in your throttle body, to basically you're opening that up a little bit more to let a bit more air into the engine when it's idling, which should allow the IAC stepper motor to close and get your IAC counts where they want to be. So we'll work through that procedure in this video too, but for now I'll fire up the laptop and I'll show you exactly what I'm going to change. And my theory is that bringing those numbers below 40 will solve my main issue. So we'll fire up the laptop here and have a look. Okay, so like I said, I'm in HP Tuners here. We'll go have a look at that idle airflow table. So to get there, you go under engine, and under the idle tab here, you got to make sure you're on the airflow tab, and then it's right down here, this base running airflow, idle airflow. So we'll click on that, and let me just drag this over here. So yeah, my theory is, like, even though if I do like looking down over here, this desired airflow max in my stock tune, that was set at 40, and because these numbers in here are above 40, I bumped that up to 50. But I think there's something internal to the operating system, or something in the background somewhere that I don't know about, that doesn't like when these values are higher than 40. So I think because my engine coolant temperature was starting out at like somewhere in this range anyways, it until that engine coolant value got high enough that this base running airflow was below 40, it would cause all kinds of problems. So basically I'm going to go into this table, select these 3 cells, and I'm just going to set them to, I don't know, let's try 39.9. Now I'm not in my truck right now, but I'll hook up to the truck. First let me save this. Save. So we'll hook up to the truck and do the same thing that we did yesterday, and we'll try and start the truck and see if that solves our issue. Okay, so we're in the truck. I've got that change to the tune flash to the truck. I'm ready to start scanning here, and then we'll try start it up and shift it into gear and see if it dies. So start the scanning and we'll start the truck. Starts fine, so we'll put it into gear and it still dies. So much for that theory. So I think now what I'll do is I'll plug in the numbers that Kyle from Goat Rope Garage sent to me, and maybe that base running airflow table was still too close to 40, so try lower those numbers even more and use the numbers that Kyle there suggested. Okay, so we're gonna go back into the tune here to that idle airflow table, and I'm gonna plug in the numbers here that Kyle with Goat Rope Garage emailed to me. So he's saying in this cell go 29.24, here we'll go 27.3, this one will be 26.77, 26.26, and 19.62, and then the rest of these will leave the same. So I will save that and we'll flash it to the truck and try it again. Okay, so we're back in the truck again. I'm going to start scanning. I've flashed that tune to the truck with the numbers that Kyle sent me, so I'll try it again here. And I'll try to shift it into gear. And it works. Shift it back to neutral. Shift it into gear. It kind of bobbed down a little there, but at least it's staying running. So, yeah, that seemed to work. So thanks, Kyle with Goat Rope Garage. So yeah, that's well worth the $15 to support his Patreon and get his input into this. It seems to have solved my issue, but I'm just looking back at my log here. I think I'm still going to, because like if you look at right here, my idle air counts are basically pinned at 310, which is the maximum. So that's why the computer is calling for it to run at 925, but it's only able to run at 818 because the IAC stepper motor is maxed out. So basically what I'm going to do now is take this thing for a drive and get it up to its normal operating temperature and see what my IAC counts are at once the truck is all warmed up, because there's a procedure to set it up, and basically we want those counts to be in the like 40 to 60 count range here on this stepper motor count. So we'll take the truck for a drive, get it warmed up, and see where our IAC counts are at, and then we'll make some adjustments on that. Okay, so I took the truck for a drive, got it up to normal operating temperature here, 90, 91 degrees Celsius, and our IAC counts are, you can see they're in that 150, 155 range. So, and yeah, like I said, ideally we'd like that down around the 60-ish mark. So, but first thing I'm going to do, like right now, it's calling for it to idle at 800 RPM. And if I lower that, in theory, this should be calling, the IAC stepper motor should be calling for less steps. So that's the first thing I'm going to do before I calibrate this IAC steps, is try and lower my idle RPM and see how much that lowers my IAC steps. So we'll do that now. Okay, so like I said, I'm gonna go into the tune, and I think after I put the cam in, I bumped up basically the desired idle RPM by quite a bit. So I'm gonna go back to, I think it's this table right here. Yeah, now let me open up my stock tune. And we'll just compare. So this is my current tune, this is my stock tune. So it looks like, actually I think we can see the difference here. So basically I raised that whole table by 225 RPM. So I'm gonna go back and take, so right now at its slowest idle, it's idling at 750. Just for the heck of it, I'm going to take 150 off this whole table and see if it'll idle at like 600 RPM at the slowest. So we'll go to this whole table, we'll go minus 150 and then hit this plus sign. So yeah, that's dropped everything. So yeah, now at the temperature we're at, it should be calling for 600 RPM in gear, and I don't have AC anymore, so that's not a factor, and it should be calling for 650 in park. So I'll save this and flash it to the truck, and then we'll see how that has affected our IAC. Alright, so I got that new tune flashed to the truck where I've dropped the RPM from 750 to 600 at its slowest speed, and I'm scanning, so we'll fire up the truck and see how it idles and what our IAC steps are at. So you can see it's calling for 650 there. And our IAC steps are lower. They're in that 140, 135-ish range. But now let's shift it into gear and see how that. So it's calling for 600. IAC steps are still in that, and that sounds too slow, like it's barely running at that. So I think I'm gonna add some of that idle back in, and then we're still gonna, it didn't make enough of a change on those IAC steps, so shift her back to park here. I don't know, I'm thinking I'll add about 50 RPM to that table. Add 50 RPM back in and see what happens there. Okay, so I added 50 RPM back in. So now it's calling for 700 in park, and it should be calling for 650. So I'll fire that up and see what happens. Yeah, IAC steps are still in that 150 range. Idle doesn't sound too bad. I'll just try it in gear here. So you can see the desired RPM dropped to 650. You can see a jump up there where it called for more air on the IAC. And it's not sounding too bad. You can definitely tell it's got a cam. But anyways, I'm gonna just parked on the side of the road here. So I'm gonna go back to the garage and then we'll work through this IAC adjustment procedure and try and get those down into the 60 range. So I ended up coming back to the house and we had company over and stuff, so I ended up not doing that IAC adjustment yesterday, which was when the first half of this video was made. So now the truck's been sitting overnight again, and I got to thinking after I did that idle adjustment yesterday where I brought down the speed, I think I ended up bringing it down like 100 RPM. That's going to change that amount of base running idle airflow that I need. So I think now that the truck is stone cold again, it's been sitting overnight, so I think I'm going to run through another one of those Rust K basically where, so what I'm going to do is set up my scanner and start the truck from stone cold, and I'll shift it into gear right away, and we'll just log that desired airflow right from stone cold, which is probably 15 or 20 degrees Celsius out right now, up until it gets to 90 or 100 degrees Celsius for operating temperature. So, and then once we have those numbers logged, that'll kind of tell us if we're where we need to be with those numbers in the running airflow table. And then once I'm done that, we'll have the truck up to temperature, so then I can work on that idle air count adjustment where I adjust the throttle blades. Basically what I'll end up doing is opening the throttle blades up a bit with the set screw. Okay, so we're in the truck again. As you can see, I've got my scanner set up here, and yeah, the main number I'm interested in is this idle desired airflow. So I've got a table or a graph set up here to record it. So and again, if you want to know how I set this up and stuff, if you go back a few videos, I'll put a link down in the description to when I did the Rust K configuration originally. But basically, like I said before, what I'm doing is starting the engine from cold, and we'll log this idle desired airflow. And so as it gets up to temperature, it'll start populating these cells here. And then, so that's basically the engine telling us how much air it wants throughout this process here. So we'll fire up the truck now and shift it into gear. And first I'll start logging here. Looks like it's logging, so we'll start the truck and shift it right into gear. And it stayed running again, so that's a good sign. Means those numbers we got from Kyle with Goat Rope Garage are close. So, but see, it's it's definitely calling for more than 40 grams per second of airflow, so. Okay, so I sped that part of the video up so I didn't bore you guys to death, but you can see I've been logging for 12 minutes now, and our engine coolant temperature is up to 90 or 91 degrees, and seems like that's about as hot as it's gonna get. But yeah, you could see when I first started the truck, it was calling for like over 40 grams per second, so I think my original airflow numbers weren't too far off, but then as the truck warmed up, here it was calling for like 19.9, here it was 15, 14, and finally 13.9 here. So I'm gonna stop logging and we'll shut the truck off. And now I'm going to take these numbers here. Actually, I'll fire up the editor. And I'm going to go back into that base running airflow table. So again, that's under idle airflow. So yeah, these are the numbers that I had in there yesterday, but because I lowered my idle RPM, that's why now it's wanting less air in this region. So I'm going to go back over. First I'm going to save this so I don't lose it. So we'll go save log file. I'm going to call this Russ K in gear, whoops, can't type, and the date is August 14th, so we'll save that, and then I'm gonna copy these numbers here, copy, and I'm going from the 20 degree cell to the 100 degree cell, so I'm gonna go back into my current tune from the 20 degree cell to the 100 degree cell and make sure I'm in the in gear row here, and go paste. And now I know that this computer, for whatever reason, doesn't like having numbers at 40 or even near 40, because I had tried that 39.9 earlier in the video and it didn't like that. So I'm just going to copy this 36.4 across to these three cells. Oh, it didn't take that for some reason, so I'll just go. Oh, I can do this interpolate deal like that. Should make them all 36.4. And then these two, so basically I'm copying this 36.4 to all the cells going this way, and then I'm going to copy this 13.9, and I'll just type it in here manually, 13.9 and 13.9. So all the cells going this way will be 13.9, all the cells going this way will be 36.4. So now I'll save this tune. I'll save it with today's date. It's the 14th today. And I'll write it to the truck, and then I'll have to do the same thing tomorrow, like wait until the truck is stone cold again and do the same procedure in park and come up with new numbers for this row here. But for now, since we've got the truck up to operating temperature, let's work on doing that IAC count adjustment. So yeah, looking back at the graph here, so with it up to operating temperature, we're at 91 degrees Celsius engine coolant temperature, so that's probably, I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, 195 or ish. And our IAC counts are still at 163, so like I said earlier in the video, we'd like to get those down around the 60-ish mark. So now we'll open up the hood and see if we can find that set screw that adjusts our throttle blade's position there. So we'll do that now. Okay, so now we're going to look at the procedure for doing this adjustment to our IAC count. So, and this was a link that was also sent to me by Kyle at Go Rope Garage, and it's on the HP Tuners forum, and it is a thread called Adjusting IAC Count, and I'll put a link to it in the description of this video as well. But if we scroll down here to post number 2, here's the procedure here. So in this post, it's saying they want our IAC counts to be 60 to 70, and in other I've seen this information in other places too, where it says like 40 to 60. So as long as I'm somewhere in that 60-ish range, I'll be happy. So so step 1 is monitor your IAC, idle speed, TPS voltage, and TPS position. So I went into the scanner, and most of that I was monitoring already. I just added this throttle position sensor, SAE, and throttle position sensor, which is our volts. And then on the graph here, I added TPS percent and TPS voltage. So now we will go over to the truck and connect the laptop and have a look under the hood and find this set screw that adjusts our throttle blade. So, and then we'll go back to the instructions here. And so step number 2 is with the key in the on position, we'll basically start logging in the scanner and turn up that set screw until our throttle position is at 2%. So we'll go over to the truck and do that now. Okay, so we're looking under the hood here, and obviously this only applies to the old school drive-by cable throttle bodies. If you're a newer, like Gen 4 drive-by-wire, this procedure doesn't apply to you. But there's where the throttle cable and cruise control cable hook up on the throttle body, and this set screw is underneath this little tab right here, but the head of it is facing up, and it's one of these, it's a Torx T15. So basically I think I might even thread this screw out and put it in from the top so I can get at the head better with this. So but for now, let's start scanning here. And one thing I should mention too is anytime you're working on your vehicle in the garage with your laptop hooked up and the ignition on, you should always, especially in Canada, when up here we got the daytime running lights, so when the key is on, the headlights are on. So to keep my battery voltage good, I've got my charger on there just to keep the battery charged up, because especially if you're flashing a tune to the truck, you definitely don't want your battery to go dead halfway through. So anyways, let's start logging here, and we'll make sure. So I'll turn the throttle manually here, and we can see that TPS, both the voltage and the throttle position are responding here. So basically I'm going to try do what the instructions say here. Let me flip tabs, but we just looked at it anyways. Basically I'm going to turn that set screw in until the TPS sensor reads 2%. So I'll do that now. I'll get my little ratchet there, and yeah, I think I'll flip the screw around and then we'll adjust it so that in our scanner here I'm seeing 2%. So I actually didn't end up flipping that screw around because it wasn't too bad to get at it with my little ratchet there. So I turned it up, and now you can see my TPS position is at 2%. And the only thing that concerns me is that TPS volts is at 0.61. And if we flip back to the other screen here, it says your TPS voltage should be between 0.45 and 0.55 volts. So I don't know if that's going to cause a problem, but we'll try to do these steps 3, 4, and 5 basically to do the TPS relearn and come back and see. So that should reset our TPS position to 0, and we'll see if it affects the volts as well. So alright, so step number 3 says turn the key to the off position, which I already did. So now we'll unplug the TPS sensor, which I'm pretty sure is this plug-in right here. So I've got that unplugged. Now it says turn the key on for a few seconds, then off again. So we'll go do that. So I turn that key on again and off again, like step number 5. So now step number 6 says plug in the TPS. So we'll plug this connector back in. So that's plugged back in. And now we turn our key on and restart logging. So we'll turn the key on and we'll hop over to the scanner again. Okay, so I got that sensor plugged back in and the key on, and we're scanning again, and it did reset the TPS position to 0, but those volts are still at 0.61, so I think that might be a problem. So one thing I know some guys I've read on the forum, guys slot out the, I don't know if you can see the little screw, they slot out the holes in this thing so they can turn the TPS sensor to get it to read the correct voltage, like less than 0.55. The other option I can do is drill a hole in the, or I'm not sure if there already is an existing hole. I think there might be, and a guy could drill it slightly bigger by like a 32nd of an inch or something. So I'm not sure what direction to go here, but I think for now I might just fire up the truck and see what effect that has had on our IAC counts, and I'm hoping it has maybe brought them down. So I'll fire up the truck and see what happens. Okay, so our engine coolant temperature is back up to 90, and our IAC counts, they've dropped some, like they're in the 138 to 142 range, but still nowhere down near that 60 area where, and it almost sounds like it's running rougher. Like I'm wondering if this TPS voltage of 0.61 is causing a problem. So okay, so I ended up taking a little break at this point and doing a little more research, and another source I found was this course that I bought from ERM performance tuning. The guy who put this together, Ed Moulton, he's unfortunately passed on, but I think his son still sells this book or training course, so if I can find it, I'll put a link to his website, so if you're interested in seeing where I got this from, you can check that out. But basically, in this source, it says that TPS voltage shouldn't exceed 0.8 to 1.0 volts. So I think I might try crank that throttle blade set screw in a little bit more and take it until the sensor voltage is just below that 0.8, like maybe 0.75 or something. And then we'll do that TPS relearn again, and then we'll fire it up and log it again and see what our IAC counts are then. Okay, so I'm logging again, and I'm going to take my T15 Torx deal, and can't do it with one hand, but basically I'm going to turn that set screw up until my TPS voltage is about 0.75 or somewhere just below 0.8, so I'll do that now. So I got that set screw turned up there until my TPS volts are at like 0.78, so I actually made a pretty big jump. I'm at 4.7% on my TPS position, so I'll do that TPS relearn thing where I disconnect that sensor and turn the key on, and just like we did before, and that should reset our TPS to 0. And then I want to make sure that I can still get 100% on my throttle position after I've done that, and then we'll fire up the truck and see what that's done to our IAC counts. Okay, so I got that TPS relearn done. I'm back in the cab of the truck now. So we'll start logging. And so our TPS voltage is still at 0.78. TPS position is set to 0. And I just want to make sure when I hit the pedal that I'm still getting a full 100%. So I'll let go and step on the pedal a couple times, and so yeah, I just wanted to make sure I'm still, after doing that like 5% adjustment, it's still seeing 100% when I've got the gas pedal mounted here, and it does. So now we'll fire the truck up. I'll back it out of the garage here so I don't gas myself, and we'll see what that has done to our IAC counts. I'll wait till it gets up to that 90 degree because it's cooled down a bit for engine coolant temp. We're at 73 degrees now, so back it over to the garage, let it get up to 90, and then we'll see what our IAC counts are at. Alright, so we got the truck back up to 90 degrees operating temperature, and our IAC counts are in that 50 to 60 range, so I think that actually worked, and it doesn't seem to be running too bad. So, but one thing I did notice is that changed my idle desired airflow quite a bit, because in the table it's set around 10 for this temperature, and desired airflow is actually only around 5. So those short-term trims and long-term trims are making, if we add them together, they're making about a 5 gram per second correction. So now I think I'm going to have to go back and redo that base running airflow, idle airflow table, but at least we got our counts in the range of where we want them now, so I think we'll call that IAC adjustment a success. Okay guys, I think we're going to wrap this one up. We got those IAC counts down into that 60-ish range where we want them. Like I said, I'm going to have to go back and make some adjustments to my idle airflow table, both in park and in gear. But to do that, I'm going to have to wait until the truck is stone cold again. So I wanted to say thanks to Kyle with Goat Rope Garage for his input, And Jeff with Evans Performance Academy, he did get back to me with some more information. So thanks to those two guys. I'll put links to their stuff in the description, and a link to that ERM Performance course. Once the truck is cooled down, I'll try and get that idle airflow table dialed in exactly the way we want it to be, but at least we've accomplished the two main things we wanted to do. I've got the truck so it will stay running when I shift it into gear when it's cold, and I've got those idle air counts down to the 60 range when it's warm. So next thing we're going to do in upcoming videos is get out there and work on tuning our VE table and doing some wide open throttle tuning, getting this thing ready to take to the track. So basically I want to make sure that when I make a full throttle wide open run, that my air fuel ratio is going to be where it's supposed to be. So we'll work on that in the next coming up videos here. So we'll wrap that up for now, and thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you on the next one. Bye for now.